we're going to be talking about the best weapons to use for defenders in Fortnite Save the World. I have never made a video on this topic before because it never made sense. Back in my day, there used to be a trap called a defender pad. Then you had to craft it with your crafting resources. Then you had to put a defender in its place, hand it a weapon that you crafted with your resources. It would use that weapon's durability, and you had to craft or loot ammo and then hand it to that defender, which they would use. It was extremely expensive to do this. And of course, those defender pads could get destroyed, so it wasn't even guaranteed that you would have protection for the rest of the fight. So honestly, we just said hand them an Obliterator or a Blastitron 9000 and thumbs up. That was basically Defenders Tips 101. Then Epic went ahead and made them follow you around. So I'm gonna go for a bit more casual of an edit today, you guys. I just want to show you clips and talk as we go. So defenders will spawn in for free now, and they will use whatever weapon you assign them. They will teleport to you, they'll walk around. You can assign them with the defend button, and you can mess around with that. It seems really finicky because sometimes they'll defend a certain location and then teleport to you anyway. It doesn't matter. They will pretty much just follow you around, and that's just kind of a set it and forget it kind of thing. And they can revive you, which is excellent. And they will use the weapon you assign them at 0 cost. That is the best part, in my opinion. All three of these shotgun defenders are different shotgun defenders, but they are all using my exact same 144 copy of the double boiler. That is crazy. I do not have to craft this weapon. I do not have to supply them ammo, and they will just go crazy on their own. That's good stuff. And that's why everybody's talking about which weapons are best to use. Now, too long didn't watch, you don't want to get through the whole video. Whatever weapon you would normally use, like the tier lists point out, is probably good for defenders. I am not going to talk about every weapon in the game today because if this tier list is anything to go by, it would take me like 2 hours. I'm just not gonna. If you are really enjoying a certain weapon, you hand it to your defender, that should be fine. I'm gonna say it out loud right now. The pistol and SMG defenders cannot currently equip SMGs, but you should be able to do that in a future update. That's a bug. Just gonna say, any weapon that you normally use would probably be good for them. However, I do have some key things to recommend, and we'll talk about that in just a second because I want to go over the fact that every defender has its own perks. There are 5 different classes, so I recommend generally looking for a crit rating, crit damage defender. You can't always use the best thing that you would possibly want. Like, for example, one of my shotgun defenders I think is double crit rating. Crit rating doesn't scale in a way that you would normally like. It doesn't work forever. Like, crit rating is really good at the beginning, and then it slows down. Like, the most crit rating you can usually get is about 70% with Toy Rocking Out and everything. And on a defender, you're never getting that high. But considering you cannot reperk defenders and they're a little bit grindy to get, you can just use the best that you have today and just recycle it for full. Like if I unfavorited this guy and just went to batch retire, there we go. I guess he's equipped and I can't do that. You can just get everything invested back. And as you can see from this 126 defender and 129, a lot of them show up mostly leveled anyway. So there's really no expense. If you didn't want to level them up at all, you could just use whatever the highest defender is you got naturally. Don't even look at the perks and go for it. That's a pretty lazy way to do it. I'm just forgiving you if you go that route. But then you can work with your defenders. So if you see that one of your shotgunners has double crit rating like mine, you might consider a 144 copy, not necessary weapon with double crit damage. You can play around with that. It's optional, but these are things. But this one's pretty good. Double crit rating and crit damage. I like it. So finding a nice blend of these perks is really all you're looking for. Just the best that you can go for. On snipers, I have noticed just from experience here that the 2nd and 5th perks are always health and shield. So I, over the long years of prioritizing sniper defenders, have gotten some excellent copies. So if you want a perfect example of what to strive for, crit rating, crit damage, fire rate, crit rating, crit damage, crit rating, fire rate, crit damage, pretty good stuff. If you can find a crit rating double crit damage, that would be, in my opinion, an ideal perk layout, but in no way is that remotely necessary. These are fully automatic, completely free in the current version of the game. They'll do what they do. You just hand them a weapon that's perked correctly and you'll be just fine. So that goes for every single weapon I'm about to suggest. If you're looking for the best perks, I've probably got a video on it. I don't want to spam the description of this video because it's not an exhaustive list, but if you're curious about a certain weapon, I've got a video on it. In fact, you can go to my channel. I actually made thumbnail pictures for all of my different playlists that were super relevant. So if you want the best perks, I've got, Save the World guides and right here. This is going to supply you with all of the information that you need. If a video is outdated, you just comment on it. I'll fix it. But I've been pretty good at keeping that updated with the most relevant weapons. All right. Without further ado, let's talk about the best weapons for defenders, going left to right. ARs are really strong in this game. Defenders have a good range with them, and they do a really good job. So there is a key thing to note when it comes to assault defenders. You can make good use of their 6 perks. So one of the weapons I actually suggest, believe it or not, is the Duet. This is one of the first weapons I tried out. In a 124 zone, it smoked the competition. This isn't something that's going to carry every mission you're in. I brought these guys to the 160 zones and they died in the storm right away, but as they eliminate enemies and the cloud of steam spawns everywhere, it does a pretty decent job. It's not bad at all. Then the sci-fi weapons are really, really good. I don't have any gameplay for this, but I will show something that Kieran sent me with the Blastotron 9000. So what's happening here is some 6 perks, when they're crit based, they don't have a cooldown. Normally for you, there will be a 4-second cooldown between all of these 7 projectiles. The defenders don't care. Every single time they crit, it will fan out. And I apologize for the low quality here, but Kieran did a great job recording this off Xbox and sending it to me, so I'm going to show it to you guys. This is just 3 defenders soloing a max level encampment. That's pretty good. And the same exact thing happens with the Gamatron and pretty much every sci-fi weapon. You should probably consider using those. Then there's the Nocturno. Okay, I understand this is founders only. I'm not going to weigh on this too heavily, but it does explode. It is as good as you would expect, and if you have it, you should probably use it. Quick correction, by the way. Demon in my stream chat, Twitch link down below if you guys ever want to see these videos recorded live, mentioned that the ring of damage is 4 seconds and the exploding projectiles is 3 seconds. So whatever. They don't have to wait for the cooldown, but you do. And as far as ARs go, that's pretty much it. You can use any decent AR from there. You can't really spread affliction the way that you would normally do it. Ardeth in my stream chat mentioned that defenders are not teddies. They will focus on one target at a time and they will not switch. So normally I suggest affliction, fanning it across a crowd of enemies. Doesn't really work that way. Also, I want to mention the Beat Blaster. Not just the Beat Blaster, but the boombox weapons in general. They pierce a lot of enemies and they make them dance. I don't have any footage for it today, but it's a really, really effective combo. And again, when it's completely free and these defenders are following you around shooting anyway, making a bunch of enemies around you dance is pretty cool. The Ear Splitter does a good job too, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Those are some basic recommendations for ARs. If you don't have explosions, you don't have area of effect damage like the Steam Cloud or the sci-fi stuff, anything with a big mag would be great. The Hacksaw is really strong. The Terminator's probably fine for defenders, and the Candy Corn LMG does drop gumdrops, while the physical, reduced damage is a big deal. That could provide you for some extra healing, which isn't bad. Now, I did mention defender perks earlier, but when it comes to melee defenders, you pretty much just want to use Val for like a bunch of reasons. So if you go to the melee defenders over here, all of the bruisers, they can affect hardware and clubs and swords and axes separately. That makes it nearly impossible to find ideal perks from a defender, and Val comes really well equipped. She has melee damage, movement speed, crit rating, crit damage, and max health every single time. You can get Val every single year at the exact same time. I'm going to flashbang you with this timeline real quick here. Super good to have this bookmarked. I think she was available, honestly, I'm not even, oh, it is Val Defender right here. Major Oswald, March 4th. So next year it'll be a different date, but it should be the same week. She's around for 1 month, 4 weeks every year, and we can all get the exact same copy. That's why I have 4 of her, just because I can just go and do that because I've been playing for a long time. You can just use 1 or 2 Val. And let's be real, if you're playing with a team of people, they'll probably have their own defenders. So anyway, my point is, defender melees are tricky to use. In this footage, you can see really what you're going to be experiencing in a lot of games. They will stand back and have a hard time participating. That's why I'm glad that assault weapons were the first thing I mentioned, because I'm going left to right, and ARs have a really good range. They can be effective from a lot of different distances, and melee, while it does do really decent damage, they don't survive forever. As soon as Val gets overwhelmed, she's just dead. 3 of them taking this long to kill 1 pitcher, not very reliable. It's just not something I highly recommend. Stormblade, crit hits cause an explosion is great. Sci-fi weapons, boombox weapons, the usual stuff is really good. The Black Blade might be decent. You might want to give it a try. I encourage you guys to try out all these things. So crit hits cause explosion, the exploding projectiles from the sci-fi set, all of these are solid. I just don't generally recommend using melee defenders in general. Personally speaking, if you guys are wondering which defenders to use, I like the fun idea of theming. If I'm running a melee build, running melee defenders sounds great. If I'm running bows or snipers, sniper defenders sound great, because when we get to snipers, you'll learn that they're maybe the only ones you would ever have to use. We'll talk about it. Shotgun defenders are incredibly fun, and I believe they are not our next topic. So let's get back to the recommendations. When it comes to melee, pretty much any good melee is fine, but I don't really recommend using melee defenders at all. So, like I said, SMGs are not showable right now. You can't use them in this current version of the game. That is a bug, but most SMGs don't really stand out to me. So as I've stated, any good SMG that you would normally use yourself, you could probably use and have a fine time. If there's a really good standout one that you really wish I mentioned, comment down below, share the knowledge. A lot of what I'm talking about today was from you guys. I went on stream, I went on Discord, you guys gave me a ton of feedback, I read my YouTube comments, and you guys made this video happen. I have not had this many requests for a video in a very long time, and I'm glad you guys let me know, because I was not about to cover defender weapons, but it's a really cool topic. So pistols were the first one I showed you guys in today's video. I gave them the paper shredder and the tiny instrument of death, and they did a great job. So we've seen this several times now, but even later on, they were annihilating this mist monster off camera. And there's a clip later on in this video where I was going to record as soon as they teleported to me, but when they teleported to me right here, they killed so fast, I barely got the clip. So that's kind of what happened right here. I was like, all right, I'll just cut the clip from here, and then I'll move on, and I'll start recording once they teleport to me. And the mist monster was half dead. They spawned in, started shooting, so I just started blasting, and then they all died. So explosive pistols, a pretty good recommendation. The paper shredder is an event weapon. You have to get that from Fortnite, and it's a challenge weapon, so it's not that easy to get. But the tiny instrument of death is great. And I'm sorry to the commenter, I don't know your name. You know who you are. I'm gonna go find him. This guy right here, Thoman. He said the Plasmatron 9000 is probably the most OP thing for defenders. And I said, you know what? You right. Piercing through enemies, exploding projectiles, energy damage, so you don't have to think about the element. It's an extremely good combo. The reason we don't usually use the Plasmatron 9000 is it has a slow projectile, so it's not as always precise as you would want it to be. That is a limited range, and it's extremely expensive on energy ammo. Defenders don't really care about most of that. It's actually just a really good weapon to hand off. It's interesting because there are a lot of really good energy weapons that you wouldn't normally use because of the expense, but when it's free, well, I'll go crazy. So yeah, Plasmatron 9000, any exploding pistol. I'm not as impressed with the Freedom's Herald, but it's something you could try. And I've definitely heard that the Storm King's Onslaught is really fun. So these are all suggestions that you can go ahead and try. If I miss any, again, comment down below, let us know. Jack's Revenge hits really hard. I don't trust their accuracy, but that's just another thing to talk about. So shotguns are as incredible as you'd expect. I am sure somebody watching has been screaming Black Drum, Black Drum, Black Drum, Black Drum. Kitsune Supremacy on Discord sent me this clip, and it's just as good as you would think. Now, I will say Black Drum is pretty finicky. There was some other footage in our Discord. I didn't get a ping with permission to use that clip, so I'm not showing it, but basically this clip looks really good. Black Drum's super strong, does lots of damage, nobody's surprised, but defenders are hurting themselves in the process, and they don't always reload after every shot, because why would they? They don't normally do that. They empty their mag. So it's not triggering the explosions as often as you might want them to, and they might kill themselves in the process, so it's not as dominant as you'd expect, but like, as you can see, once the explosion does fire off, it just one-shots a mist monster and everything around it. So Black Drum on shotguns is as good as you would probably guess, but it's not something I necessarily recommend. And then Ground Pounder is also extremely good. Huskbuster is super good. Pop Shot is super good. You guys know the usual. Shotguns in general are very, very strong. The Pulsar 9000 was my favorite of the day. I brought this up against some normal enemies, and you can see the range is limited. This is why I don't really recommend shotguns in every single game, because this is frankly embarrassing. This is hard to watch. I feel like that guy on Letterkenny kicking the bucket. This is embarrassing. Anyway, this is not easy to watch, but when they're in range, it's really good damage. I was messing around with teleporting defenders here and having them mark certain areas. It doesn't work that well every single time. Like right here, they just didn't teleport to me. And I'm including this footage not just to be a, lazy YouTuber, but like seriously, this is kind of how the game is. You're like trying to mark defend and like, hey, come here. And then they don't always come here. And then there's this clip right here where I'm like, all right, guys, they're dead. You can revive me now. And it just didn't. So defenders will pick you up, but I do not recommend relying on them. However, this is a bubble Riot Husky encampment that they annihilated. This was really, really fun to watch. This is a 205 encampment. I'm in a 144 player in this mission, and they're just crushing it on their own with 2 of them. 1 of them died. That's really strong. That's really strong. I lost track of my defenders at one point. I was like, oh, shoot, they're killing a smasher. They took out an entire smasher when I wasn't looking. Then they teleported into me, and the Pulsar 9000 is piercing targets, doing great damage while it does it. And maybe it's because my shotgun defenders are double crit rating. I don't know. Those exploding projectiles were firing off a lot. So you can see it's awkward and embarrassing when one's dead and the other ones aren't near you. Your adrenaline rush isn't healing them right now. I'm showing all of this to show you the full reality of defenders in the current update, but once they get in range, enemies just fall over. It's so much damage. It's kind of awesome. Right here, they're a bit whiffing, but you can see the damage. It staggers them, knocks them out, does a wonderful job. Pulsar 9000 is an excellent recommendation. You should probably try it out. The Staccato Shadow is very similar, where it'll pierce targets and hit lots of different enemies, make them dance. It won't do as much overpowering damage, but who cares, right? And that also means like the Woofer is really good. This one right here. Normally, I just call this like the budget Pulsar, but you know, if you don't care about the budget, maybe you should just use the Pulsar 9000. So shotguns go really hard. The Maverick is really strong. The double boiler, as I said, Steam Cloud does a really good job. And one thing I haven't mentioned at all, which I frankly forgot, but it's a little tricky, are the vacuum tube weapons. So I don't even see my vacuum tube shotgun in here. It's hiding from me. The chain lightning does work and is supposedly very strong. This season is a fire season, so I wasn't able to really test any of that to much efficiency, but you should know that all chain lightning weapons are really good, except for bows. We'll talk about that more probably right now, I believe. No, one more thing I gotta mention, and I'm embarrassed because this topic is a little new to me. I did a lot of testing today and I just wanted to share it. The Dragon's Might might be my favorite thing. This is so good. It's so strong. It's so silly. It's like a wave of fire, and it does a great job. These Dragon's Mites are double mag size, and they're annihilating everything. It's shockingly good. I'm gonna review the perks that I have on these real quick with you guys. I have double mag size reload just to be silly. This was a meme perk setup because when you're firing off the Dragon's Might, the animation will continue longer. So like the animation will continue longer than the sound. So the sound will stop looping as you're still firing. It's ridiculous. But on kill, it spawns Roman Candle, and it does not visually appear that the Roman candles have a cooldown. So they do a lot of damage. This is like, I say unironically, like this is not a meme build. Like this is actually strong. This is really good. Later on, again, it's a little choppy, but they annihilated a smasher. So that was a 5-second clip. I started recording this a little late. It was a messy recording today, but you know, one gets staggered, but they just get right back up and do a really good job. That's cool. That's really cool. So yeah, Dragon's Might, highly recommend it. Most shotguns are pretty good. There are a lot of standouts. And again, if I missed any, comment down below because it's just a really great combo. Now, I'm going to say sniper defenders are probably the most boring. Blastitron 9000 is just kind of amazing. If you wanted a clean answer of what weapon should I hand to my defenders, probably Blastitron 9000. It has really good range. The defenders can stand back, crit as much as they want, exploding projectiles all over. And if you didn't want just raw damage, you wanted a bit more fluidity, the Obliterator is still great. It doesn't have as much crowd clearing, though it does pierce, but the Obliterator can shoot through walls. So your defenders won't be hindered by your traps. They'll just shoot straight through the walls. Neon Sniper is very similar. That's a classic recommendation set. The reason I always recommended Sniper Defenders over anything else was because you could put them up high, safe, far away from explosions and smashers destroying the defender pads. The Obliterator, or the Blastitron 9000, so the Obliterator could shoot through the walls, or the Blastitron 9000 at least, you know, had the range to do some really good damage when there were no walls in the way. So those two just kind of covered it. It was like if you were going to craft a weapon, you were going to hand them ammo, you were going to craft a defender pad, and you're going to put it down, you might as well just stick with the best. And that's really what snipers were, in my opinion. Nowadays, when everything's free, they spawn in right away and they follow you around. I don't know. It seems like there's a lot more variety, and I'm digging it. I should say it now in this section. Vacuum tube bow, most of the bows. Vindertech Seeker, it does not seem like if there's an ability where it draws back Night Owl and gets a bonus, they will not use it. It seems like even when they do draw back far enough, you just don't get the chain lightning. If that's fixed in a future update, you might want to try this out and have a good time, but I'm not really sure I recommend it. Things like the third rail, I don't believe they even charge it up. So you're losing out on a lot of damage. I don't think it's a good decision. For this entire video, I had like a whole list of weapons I wanted to go through and talk about, and I hit most of them there. But for snipers, Defenders, it's like Obliterator and Blastotron 9000 with the exploding projectiles. Not the ring, the exploding projectiles. The ring doesn't seem to have the same cooldown reduction, and it's not nearly as much damage. The 7 projectiles getting spammed and doing a ton of damage is really, really strong. So yeah, kind of a longer topic, but there are a lot of weapons in this game. There are dozens that work really well. And just as a quick summary, I want to go through the basics once more. Defenders all have randomized perks. Use the best ones that you've got or the highest leveled if resources are a problem. If you don't want to go weapon by weapon, there are some key standouts. So if I go to the event schematics and all the way down, Neon Set just does great. Exploding projectiles do really, really good damage. Vacuum Tube Chain Lightning does really, really good damage. And then up here in the Steampunk section, the Steam Cloud does a really, really good amount of damage. And as we all know, the Black Metal Explosion is quite strong. That on any melee should be strong, but it'll reduce the health of defender, so it's not that safe. That's a do you mean retro sci-fi, not neon? I guess that's true. This is why I record these on stream, because these guys can correct my mistakes, and I get to be a pro streamer and read chat while I'm talking mid-sentence. Unfortunately, you can't hand them launchers, but yeah, I think that would simplify things a lot. This video would have been about 1 minute long, where I basically just say deatomizer and then move on with the topic. So there you go. Those are all the best weapons for defenders with some live gameplay. I was in a mood today. I didn't want to edit this. I wanted this to be a sit down campfire chat kind of video. So no outro music. You can watch one of the videos that are edited to enjoy that. So that's it. Subscribe, like the video, Twitch link down below if you guys want to see these live. Comment what I missed and spread the knowledge. This is a really, really fun update. As of now, there are so many different things that are super enjoyable. And because I don't want to lock myself into just a Blastotron 9000 every single time, I think I'll match it to whatever my loadout is generally doing. Like if it's a constructor, I'll give it a sniper, whatever. If I'm using pistols, they should be using pistols, shotguns, etc., etc. I think that's a fun way to line everything up. So that's it. I'm out of here. Goodbye.